The exploration ship Horizon Dawn moved silently through the empty sea of stars. Its white hull reflected the light of a dying sun ahead, a red giant that flickered as if gasping for its last breath. Captain Elias Rene stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of radiation that the star released into the void. He had traveled across many sectors, but this place felt different. The scanners whispered of ruins, signals, and echoes of something ancient waiting to be found. Beside him, First Officer Mira glanced at her console. "Captain, I'm detecting structures on the third planet, not natural. They're artificial and massive." The crew grew quiet. Discovering alien ruins was rare, but this felt stranger. The signals coming from the planet carried fragments of voices, words broken by static. Some sounded like commands, others like cries for help. Elias nodded. "Prepare a landing team, we'll investigate." The ship lowered through a gray sky filled with dust and smoke. The planet's surface looked scarred. Once, it must have been beautiful, with silver towers, green plains, and shining rivers. Now the land was broken, burned, and silent. Cities lay in ruins, towers leaning like old bones. The ground cracked as if the planet itself had suffered from endless battles. The landing team stepped out of the shuttle, their boots pressed against the ash-covered soil. Elias, Mira, Engineer Holt, and Medic Leon walked carefully through the ruins. Strange carvings decorated the broken walls, symbols of a proud people who had once ruled the stars. "This place," Mira whispered. "It feels like a graveyard." Elias felt the same. The air was heavy, not just with dust, but with memory. Something tragic had happened here, something that still lingered like a ghost. Suddenly, Holt froze. His scanner beeped. Movement. Not far. Everyone raised their weapons. From the shadows of a broken palace, a figure appeared. She was tall, taller than any human, with silver armor marked by scars of many battles. A long blade rested in her hand, glowing faintly. With strange energy, her eyes, bright and sharp, locked onto the humans. The team stood still. This was no ghost. She was alive. Her presence was overwhelming. She carried herself with the grace of royalty and the strength of a warrior. Her crown, though dented and worn, still shone faintly in the pale light. Her breathing was steady, yet her shoulders carried the weight of centuries. Elias spoke carefully. "We mean no harm. We're explorers." The alien queen did not lower her weapon. She studied them, her gaze shifting from one human to another. For a moment, the silence was so deep that even the wind seemed afraid to move. Then, to the surprise of the humans, she slowly lowered her sword. The glow faded. Her voice, low but filled with emotion, broke the silence. "Please," she said, "please help me stay true to my people's promise." The humans looked at one another, stunned. Leon, the medic, whispered, She speaks our language." The queen's eyes closed for a moment, as if gathering strength. When she opened them again, her gaze was softer, though still firm. "I know who you are. You are the children of Earth. My people once knew your kind, in stories carried from star to star." Mira stepped forward carefully. "What promise are you speaking of?" The queen's expression shifted, pain mixed with pride. She gestured toward the ruins around them. "This world, once the heart of my empire. We swore to protect it, to guard the light of our ancestors. But we failed. Endless wars drained us. Enemies rose and my people lost faith. Still, I vowed never to let dishonor erase who we were. That vow is my burden. Alone, I cannot carry it." Her voice trembled slightly. For a warrior so strong, such honesty felt heavier than any battle. The humans listened in silence. Elias felt a weight in his chest. This was more than a meeting of two species. It was the crossing of two fates, one fallen, one still rising. From the ruins behind her, faint movement stirred. Figures appeared, alien survivors, thin and weary, their armor broken, their eyes filled with distrust. They carried spears and rifles pointing them at the humans. The Queen raised her hand. "Stand down," she commanded. Her people hesitated but obeyed, lowering their weapons slowly. Elias realized something then. She was not only a warrior, she was their leader, their queen. And even now, though her people were few and broken, they still followed her voice. But why ask for help from humans? Holt spoke, unable to hold back his curiosity. Why us? You must have other allies, other races. The Queen shook her head. No, they turned away. My people's wars brought only fear and hatred. No one would answer our calls but humanity. She paused, her voice softer. Humanity is different. You are not bound by ancient chains. You still choose. And I need that choice beside me. The words hung in the air. The promise she carried was heavy, but the fact that she lowered her sword before strangers said much about her desperation. Mira asked quietly, "What do you need from us?" The Queen's gaze grew sharp again, but not with anger, with determination. "Help me keep my vow. Help me protect what remains. And in return, I will give you the truth of what hunts us." Before anyone could answer, a sudden rumble shook the ground. The ruins trembled. The survivors behind the Queen raised their weapons again, eyes wide with fear. From the sky, black shapes descended, metallic insect-like machines, their wings buzzing with unnatural energy. Their eyes glowed red as they swarmed down toward the ruins. The Queen's sword lit up once more. She stood tall, ready to face the enemy. "They have found us." Elias raised his weapon, heart pounding. This was no longer just an exploration. This was the beginning of something far greater. For a brief second their eyes met, the human captain and the alien Queen. No words were needed. In that moment he understood. Her plea was not just about her people. It was about survival against a threat larger than either species could face alone. The machines screeched as they descended. Dust and fire filled the sky. The Queen lifted her sword high, the humans raised their weapons beside her, and the ruins of the forgotten empire became a battlefield once more. And in the middle of chaos, Elias remembered her words. "Please, help me stay true to my people's promise." It was not just a plea. It was the beginning of an alliance written in ash and fire. The sky burned with flashes of red and silver as the machines attacked. Their movements were unnatural, almost mechanical, precise, and cruel. The ruins shook under their weight. The surviving aliens, led by their Queen, fought with desperation and skill, but the humans realized quickly that sheer strength alone would not win this battle. Captain Elias Rane crouched behind a fallen pillar, scanning the enemy with his rifle. "Mira, cover the left flank. Leon, keep them back," he shouted. His words barely carried over the screeching machines and the shouts of the alien warriors. The Queen moved through the battlefield with calm precision. Each swing of her sword cleaved through metal with a hum that sounded like the ringing of a bell. Yet despite her skill, Elias noticed the strain in her movements. She had fought countless battles, but these machines were unlike any enemy she had faced before. Between skirmishes? She spoke to her warriors, her voice carrying over the chaos. "Hold the line. Protect the crown." Elias's curiosity broke through the fear of battle. He had seen the faint glow of a small artifact on her belt during the first moments they met. "What is the crown?" he asked Mira, ducking behind a wall. Mira's eyes widened. "I think it's some kind of relic. Maybe their source of power or leadership." The Queen's voice cut through the noise, directed at the humans this time. "It is the memory of my people's past. It carries the wisdom and mistakes of every ruler who came before me. If the machines capture it, my people will lose their soul. That is why I asked for your help." Elias felt a chill. "Your people's soul, captured by machines? What do you mean?" The Queen's eyes softened for a brief moment. "Long ago, my civilization ruled multiple star systems. We were proud and wise. And then we fought. Endless wars. Greed, pride, and fear consumed us. Many lives were lost, and our people grew weak. But before the darkness took hold, my ancestors created the Crown of Oaths. It holds the memory of our leaders, the wisdom of our mistakes, and the guiding promise to honor our people, no matter what. The humans realized the weight of her words. This was more than a weapon or a relic. It was a symbol of hope, honor, and survival. Suddenly, one of the machines broke through the defenses. Its claws ripped into a building, sending dust and debris flying. The humans fired rapidly, but more of the swarm appeared, emerging from the smoke and ash. Elias ducked again, shouting to his team, "We need a plan. They're too fast." The queen noticed the humans struggle and approached them, her armor scorched but her stance firm. These are not ordinary machines. They are sentinels created long before my reign. They do not tire, they do not fear, and they will not stop until they have erased every trace of life they consider free. Mira looked at the queen with astonishment. Why would they do that? Why target your people? They are programmed to remove civilizations that grow beyond their control, the queen explained. They see us as a threat because we carry knowledge, culture, and choice. They fear the unpredictability of free will. That is why I need help. Alone, I cannot protect my people, and I cannot let them capture the crown. The humans exchanged glances. Helping this alien queen was dangerous. Yet something about her words stirred a feeling inside them, a sense of purpose that went beyond survival. Humanity had faced threats before, but none like this, and none that challenged them. To fight for someone else's honor, Elias made a decision. We will help. Tell us what we must do. The queen's eyes softened, a hint of relief in her gaze. First, we must regroup. The crown is protected in the central sanctuary deep within the ruins, but the machines will not let us move freely. We must create a path, and I need your strategy and strength. The humans and the queen's warriors moved cautiously through the ruined streets. Every step was dangerous. The machines scoured the area, sensing movement, hunting with precision. Elias led his team, using knowledge of terrain and quick thinking to avoid traps. Mira guided the aliens, combining human tactics with their advanced knowledge of the ruins. Along the way, the queen shared more of her story. I ascended to leadership during a war I did not start, she said quietly. My people were divided, and I promised them that I would lead with honor, not vengeance. That promise is what has kept me alive. Leon glanced at her curiously. And yet, you carry the weight alone? Yes, she said, her voice firm but tinged with sorrow. I am responsible for my people's future. I cannot fail them again. The crown reminds me every day of that duty. I have made mistakes, but I must stay true to the promise, even if it means asking strangers for help. Elias felt a strange respect for her. Humans had leaders, but the responsibility the queen carried went beyond anything he had imagined. Her people had fallen, their world burned, yet she refused to surrender. They reached a large plaza, at the center of which rose a tower that had survived the destruction. The tower's doors were sealed, ancient runes glowing faintly around the edges. The queen approached them, placing her hand gently on the door. The crown lies inside, but the machines know this place. We must be swift. Before anyone could respond, the first wave of machines attacked. They swarmed through the plaza, claws and energy beams tearing into the ground. The humans and aliens formed a defensive line. Blasts of plasma and bullets filled the air. The queen moved like a storm, her sword cutting through machines effortlessly, but she did not fight recklessly. Every strike was calculated, every movement protecting the humans beside her. For the first time, Elias realized she trusted them, not blindly, but because she had to. They were partners in a battle none could fight alone. During the fight, one of the alien survivors, a young warrior named Talion, faltered under the pressure. A machine lunged at him, claws outstretched. Without thinking, Mira fired her weapon, hitting the machine precisely. The explosion sent it flying, saving Talion's life. The queen paused and looked at Mira, a faint smile crossing her lips. You understand what it means to fight for another. That is rare among humans. You may yet remind my people what honor truly is. The words struck Elias deeply. This mission was no longer about exploration or survival. It was about showing a civilization that even in the darkest times, others could rise to help them. Humanity's courage could rekindle hope in a fallen empire. Finally, after hours of careful movement and combat, they reached the tower. The doors opened to reveal a chamber filled with light and energy. At the center, on a pedestal, rested the Crown of Oaths. Its surface shimmered, reflecting memories of past rulers in faint, ghostly images. The queen approached it reverently, her sword lowered. "This is the heart of my people. It carries their wisdom, their mistakes, and their hopes. If it falls to the machines, everything we are, will be lost." Elias stepped beside her. "We'll protect it. Together." The Queen's eyes met his, and for the first time she allowed herself to hope. Then perhaps humanity is truly the key to keeping promises that others cannot. Outside, the machines gathered, their red eyes glowing like distant stars. The battle was far from over, but inside the chamber a fragile alliance had formed. Humans and aliens, bound by the will to protect life, honor, and hope, stood ready to face the storm. And as the queen lifted her sword, not in anger but in resolve, she whispered softly to herself, "I will stay true. I will protect them. And I will honor the promise of my people, no matter the cost." The humans knew that this was only the beginning. A story of courage, loyalty, and unexpected allies was unfolding. A story that would test the limits of strength, wisdom, and the meaning of being truly human. The chamber hummed with faint energy as the humans and the alien queen stood around the Crown of Oaths. Its shimmering light cast reflections of ancient faces across the walls, long-dead rulers of a proud civilization, watching over their queen. Outside, the machines churned like a dark storm, waiting for the right moment to strike. Elias Rane examined the crown carefully. "It looks almost alive," he said. His hand hovered above the glowing artifact, but he did not touch it. "What exactly does it do?" The queen lowered her sword and explained. "The crown carries the memory of my people, their victories, their mistakes, and their wisdom. It is more than a relic. It is the soul of our civilization. If the machines take it, they will erase our history, our identity, our very essence." Mira, always curious, leaned closer. "Why do the machines care about your history? Why not just leave your people alone?" "They are not machines in the way you understand," the queen said, her voice grave. "They were created long before my reign, by a civilization even older than mine. Their purpose is simple: eliminate free civilizations that could rise beyond control. We are considered dangerous because we think, we choose, and we learn. That is a threat to them, and they will not stop until we no longer exist." A low rumble shook the chamber. The humans and aliens froze as they listened. Outside, the machines were coordinating, moving with terrifying intelligence. This was no mindless swarm. They were hunting, learning, adapting. Elias clenched his fists. "We can't let them get the crown." "But if they're this smart, how do we stop them?" The queen's gaze hardened. "We do not stop them with force alone. We fight with strategy, courage, and unity. My people have lost faith, but perhaps humanity can show us another way." The words hung in the air. Elias realized the weight of her statement. Humanity was not simply providing strength, they were offering hope. That was what made them special. The first wave of machines struck just as they began to plan. Their metal claws shattered the doors of the chamber, sending shards of stone flying. The humans and aliens sprang into action. Elias led the team, firing precise shots using cover and quick movements to stay ahead of the attackers. Mira darted through the gaps, her weapon blazing, taking down any machine that got too close to the crown. Leanne focused on keeping the alien survivors safe, pulling fallen warriors out of harm's way, patching wounds and giving words of encouragement that seemed to fuel their strength. The queen fought with grace and precision, her sword slicing through metal with a soft hum. But she did not attack recklessly. Every movement was calculated, designed to protect the humans beside her. She trusted them, not fully, not yet, but enough to fight alongside them. In the midst of battle, one young alien warrior, Talion, was pinned under a falling beam. A machine lunged for him, claws poised to strike. Without hesitation, Elias jumped in front, firing his weapon until the machine fell. The impact sent Elias staggering, but Talion was free. The Queen watched this act, and her eyes widened slightly. Your courage. It is not like ours. You fight not for glory, not for power, but for others. Elias shook off the pain and nodded. That's what we do. That's what makes us human. The battle continued for hours, the ruins shaking under the weight of the machines. The humans and aliens worked together, each learning from the other. The aliens' advanced tactics combined with human adaptability created a force the machines did not anticipate. Finally, they managed to retreat into a smaller chamber inside the tower. The Queen placed her hand on the crown again and a soft hum filled the room. This place. It is safe for now, she said. But the enemy will not wait. They will adapt. Elias looked at the artifact. Can it fight back? Can it protect itself? The Queen shook her head. No, it does not attack. It preserves. It teaches. It reminds my people of who we were and who we must be. The machines cannot take it lightly, but their strength lies in numbers and persistence. We must be clever. Mira studied the glowing runes around the chamber. There are patterns here, almost like instructions. Maybe the crown can tell us how to use it. The Queen nodded. Yes, but it requires focus, understanding, and a mind willing to see beyond simple commands. That is why I asked for humanity's help. Your minds are different. You see possibilities even when the odds are against you. Elias felt the weight of her words. Humans were being asked to guide an ancient civilization, to show them the value of courage, unity, and hope. This was bigger than any battle he had faced. Outside, the rumble of the machines grew louder. The Queen stood and drew her sword again. We cannot stay hidden forever. We must strike, or we will be crushed. Elias nodded. What's the plan? The Queen pointed to the broken walls. We will lure them into the narrow streets. There, your tactics, your adaptability can turn their strength against them. They cannot maneuver in confined spaces as easily as we can. The humans prepared traps, setting up barricades, energy mines, and diversion signals. The aliens, following the Queen's lead, coordinated the attack, their movements precise and disciplined. When the machines returned, the humans and aliens were ready. The first wave ran straight into a trap, energy nets and mines sending them tumbling. The crown's glow seemed to pulse with energy, as if approving the Alliance's strategy. Elias realized then something profound. The Queen had survived not only because of her strength, but because she had maintained her promise to protect her people, even in the darkest times. And now, humanity was showing her that strength could take many forms, including courage, loyalty, and quick thinking. The battle raged through the ruins. The humans adapted constantly, learning from every attack. They anticipated the machines' moves, using clever maneuvers to outsmart them. For every machine destroyed, another seemed to rise, but the humans and aliens refused to falter. In one critical moment, a massive machine broke through the barricade, advancing toward the crown. The Queen stepped forward, sword raised, but a human soldier, Holt, noticed a structural weakness in the machine's legs. He signaled Elias, who fired at the joint with precise shots. The machine collapsed, giving the Queen time to strike and disable it completely. The Queen turned to the humans, admiration in her eyes. You see possibilities. That is why we survive. That is why I asked for your help. Your strength is not only in your weapons, but in your mind and your heart. Elias wiped sweat and dust from his brow. It's not just me. We're all in this together. The Queen nodded. And that is why my people may yet live, my promise. It is not only my burden. It can be shared. It can be upheld by those who choose honor and courage. The humans realized something remarkable. They were changing history. Not through conquest, but through the willingness to fight. For others, to risk everything for a promise that was not even theirs. As the sun set behind the ruins, casting long shadows over the battlefield, the humans and aliens took a moment to catch their breath. The machines had retreated, but they would return. The fight was far from over. Inside the tower, the crown of oath shimmered, reflecting the faces of humans and aliens alike. It was not a weapon of destruction, but a beacon of hope, and in that light the Queen whispered once more, "Perhaps humanity can remind my people of what it truly means to be honorable, to fight not for greed or power, but for the life and future of others." Elias looked around at the exhausted humans and aliens. They had survived the first test. They had faced an enemy unlike any other, and yet, together, they had found a way to protect what mattered most. And as night fell over the ruins, a fragile hope took root. A hope that courage, unity, and choice could light the darkest of futures, and that even in the heart of destruction, the promise of life could endure. The battle was not over. The machines would return. But humanity had proven its value, and the Queen, for the first time in centuries, allowed herself to believe that her promise could be kept, not by her alone, but by those who chose to stand beside her. The night over the ruined planet was silent, but the tension among the survivors was heavy. The humans and alien warriors gathered inside a fortified chamber of the central tower. Outside, the machines' faint red eyes glimmered in the distance, a constant reminder of the danger that awaited them. Captain Elias Rahn paced back and forth, his mind racing. They had survived the first wave of attacks, but the Queen's people looked uneasy. Their confidence had faltered after centuries of defeat, and even now, many of them whispered doubts about the humans who had come to their aid. One of the Queen's generals, a stern alien named Kale, approached her. "Your Highness," he said, his voice filled with unease, "do you truly trust them? These humans, they are strong, yes, but untested in battles like ours. Can they help us carry the promise of our people?" The Queen lowered her gaze, her hand brushing the hilt of her sword. "I do not trust blindly, Kale, but I see what they offer. Strength, courage, and a mind that does not bend to fear or pride. That is why I asked for their help." Kale shook his head, unconvinced. "And if they fail? If the crown falls to the machines? Our civilization will be lost and your promise will be broken." The Queen's eyes flashed with determination. "Then we will fight together and we will ensure it does not fall." Meanwhile, Elias spoke quietly with Mira and Holt. "The Queen is under a lot of pressure. Her people have lost faith. If we make a mistake, it could destroy the alliance before the final battle even begins." Mira nodded. "We need to show them that we're not here for glory, but to help. That's how we earn their trust." Leon, tending to the wounded aliens, added softly, "Actions speak louder than words. Let's make sure they see us fight with them, not above them." The next day, the group set out to scout the ruins surrounding the tower. The machines had returned, and their movements were more coordinated than before. Narrow streets collapsed. Bridges and jagged buildings created a dangerous maze, but it also offered strategic opportunities. The Queen moved with her sword raised, guiding both humans and alien warriors. "Stay close, trust each other. The machines sense fear. If we hesitate, we will fail." As they advanced, Kale whispered to another officer, "These humans are clever, yes, but their ways are strange. I do not know if they can truly fight as one with us." A sudden explosion shook the ruins. A group of machines had ambushed a flank, forcing the humans and aliens to react quickly. The Queen shouted orders, and humans and aliens worked in unison to repel the attack. Mira and Holt used diversion tactics, luring machines into narrow corridors where alien warriors could strike effectively. Despite the successful defense, tensions grew. Some of the Queen's warriors whispered complaints about the humans' unconventional methods. They preferred direct assault, precision strikes, and strict formations, whereas humans adapted on the fly, improvising with traps and terrain. The Queen noticed the unrest and called her warriors together. "You doubt them because they are different, but their minds see possibilities that we cannot. Watch and learn. They are not weak." They are allies, and they fight for life and honor. Elias stepped forward. We are not here to replace your strength or traditions. We are here to help. Together we can protect what matters most. Kale studied Elias silently, then nodded reluctantly. It was clear that some of the warriors were still skeptical, but the Queen's presence reminded them of their duty. As they approached a narrow canyon, the group discovered signs of the machine's preparations. Trenches, energy barriers, and mechanical traps covered the area. It was clear that the next attack would be brutal. The Queen knelt beside a young alien soldier who was trembling. "Do not fear," she said softly. "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. Look to your allies. They will not leave you behind." Elias saw the moment and understood why the Queen had pleaded for their help. This was not only a battle for survival, it was a battle to restore faith and honor to a civilization that had almost lost both. The following hours tested everyone. The machines attacked in waves, each time more coordinated and relentless. Humans and aliens worked side by side, their strategies blending. Traps were sprung, narrow streets were defended, and the crown remained protected in the tower. During a critical moment, Kale was trapped under debris while fighting a machine. He shouted for help, but some warriors hesitated, unsure if they should risk themselves. Without thinking, Elias charged forward, lifting the debris just enough for Kale to escape. Mira provided covering fire, taking down the machine threatening them. The Queen watched this and her eyes widened. See? Courage. Sacrifice. These humans remind us what it truly means to fight for another. Not for power, not for glory, but for life. The experience shifted the balance. The Queen's warriors began to see the humans differently. Their unconventional tactics, their bravery, and their willingness to risk themselves for others earned respect that words alone could not achieve. As the battle settled for the night, the group gathered near the tower. The machines had withdrawn temporarily, but the danger remained. Exhausted, they took a moment to regroup. The Queen approached Elias quietly. "Your people, they carry something precious. Not strength alone, but a heart that chooses honor over fear. That is why I trust you." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "And I trust you, Queen. We'll see this through. Together." Suddenly, Talion, the young alien warrior, spoke up. "Your way, they are strange. Yet I see the truth. We were weak because we forgot to adapt, to see beyond tradition. Perhaps we can learn from humans." The Queen smiled faintly. "Yes, Talion. That is the lesson I hope to remember. We are not alone. The promise we carry can be upheld, but only if we embrace what others offer, even when it is different from what we know." The alliance had been tested. Doubts had risen, fear had threatened to break them, but courage, sacrifice, and unity had strengthened their bond. The humans had proven themselves, not as conquerors or rulers, but as allies, as partners in a battle that demanded more than skill. It demanded heart. The night passed slowly. The group remained on alert, knowing the machines would return stronger and more organized. The Queen reviewed her strategy, but now she did so with humans at her side, not merely as helpers but as trusted comrades. Elias reflected on the journey so far. The humans had shown their unique value, the ability to adapt, to inspire, and to choose courage in the face of overwhelming odds. That was what made them special. That was what gave hope to a civilization that had almost lost everything. The Queen's voice broke his thoughts. "Tomorrow we strike back. The machines will not wait, and neither can we. But now I have faith that my promise can be kept, not by me alone, but by those willing to fight with honor, whatever their form." Elias looked at his crew and the alien warriors. "We'll be ready. Together." As the first rays of the planet's dim sun touched the ruins, the humans and aliens prepared for what would be their greatest challenge yet. Doubts had been tested, alliances had been questioned, but through courage and unity they had strengthened their bond. The Queen stood tall, sword in hand, eyes on the horizon. "My people's promise will live, and those who fight beside me will ensure it endures." In that moment, the humans understood the depth of their role. This was not just a battle for survival. It was a chance to show an entire civilization the meaning of honor, courage, and hope. The machines would come again, stronger, smarter, ruthless. But humanity had proven itself, and the Queen had seen that some values were universal: trust, sacrifice, and the will to fight for what is right. The stage was set. The final confrontation approached, and every decision, every act of courage would determine whether the promise of the Queen's people and the hope of humanity would survive. And in the quiet moments before dawn, the Queen whispered softly to herself, "We will stand true. Together we will honor the promise no matter the cost." The galaxy was vast and endless, filled with glowing stars, silent planets, and lonely outposts floating in the dark. For Daniel Cross, a human explorer and trader, the galaxy was both home and prison. He traveled from one forgotten corner to another in his small starship, Aurora's Light, always searching for something new. Daniel was not a soldier, not a hero, but a man who liked to explore. He carried supplies from one system to another, helped broken colonies with repairs, and sometimes stayed behind to listen to stories from strangers. For him, the stars were not empty. They were full of secrets waiting to be found. On one quiet day, his ship drifted toward a deserted trading outpost. It was old, almost broken, a relic from a time when merchants used to meet and exchange goods. Now most travelers ignored it. But Daniel, curious as always, decided to stop. His fuel was low, and the outpost might still have something useful. The docking bay was silent when he landed. Dust floated in the air and the lights flickered weakly. Most shops were closed, doors locked, and the hallways empty. Daniel walked slowly, his boots echoing against the metallic floor. It felt like a place forgotten by time. As he searched, he noticed movement near a pile of broken cargo crates. At first, he thought it was a scavenger animal. But then he heard a faint sound, a weak cough, almost like a whisper. His hand moved to the tool on his belt, not a weapon but a small plasma cutter just in case. "Hello?" Daniel's voice echoed in the empty corridor. There was no answer. But then he saw her, a figure crouched behind the crates, thin and trembling. She looked young, maybe close to his own age, though it was hard to tell. Her skin was a pale silver blue, glowing softly under the broken lights. Her long hair, once shining, was tangled and dusty. She wore torn clothing that looked once elegant, now ruined by time and hunger. Her eyes, large and bright like stars, stared at him with fear. She tried to move away but was too weak to stand. Daniel's heart tightened. He had seen refugees before, people who lost their homes in wars or disasters. But something about her was different. She carried an air of grace even in her broken state, as if she belonged to a world greater than this forgotten outpost. "Easy," Daniel said softly, raising his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm not here to hurt you." The girl tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Food." Daniel quickly opened the small pack on his belt and took out a ration bar. He placed it gently on the floor and stepped back. Her hands shook as she reached for it, but she devoured it as if she had not eaten for days. He gave her water next. She drank slowly, her eyes never leaving him. Finally, after a long silence, she whispered, Why help me?" Daniel sat, down on a crate nearby, keeping his distance so she would not feel trapped. "Because you need it," he said simply. "No one should starve alone in the dark." Her eyes softened, though fear still lingered. "Humans. I was told they only care for themselves." Daniel gave a small smile. "You were told wrong, at least about me." She looked down, as if ashamed. After a moment, she said, "My name." "Liara." The name struck him as unusual, melodic. "I'm Daniel," he replied. "Nice to meet you, Liara, even if the place isn't so nice." She gave a small nod. For the first time, she allowed herself to lean against the crate, her body relaxing slightly now that she had food in her stomach. Over the next hour, Daniel asked gentle questions. She answered slowly, as if each word carried heavy memories. She told him she once lived in a world filled with light and song, but her world was destroyed. Enemies came, powerful and merciless, burning cities and chasing survivors into the void. Liara had escaped, but her escape had cost her everything. Her family, her home, her people, gone. For weeks, maybe months, she had wandered from place to place, hiding from those who wanted her dead. This abandoned outpost had been her last shelter. Daniel listened carefully, not interrupting. He could see the pain in her eyes, the way her voice trembled. He understood loneliness, though not. Like hers, she was more than just a refugee. She was someone who had lost an entire world. When she grew tired, he helped her walk back to his ship. She resisted at first, unsure if she could trust him fully. But when her legs failed, Daniel simply offered his hand. Slowly, she accepted. The Aurora's Light was not a large ship, but it was warm and safe. Daniel showed her the small living quarters, gave her a blanket, and prepared more food. Liara sat on the bunk, staring around with cautious eyes. "This is your home?" she asked softly. "Yeah," Daniel replied. "It's not much, but it keeps me alive." For the first time, she almost smiled. "It feels less empty than the outpost." As she ate again, Daniel studied her carefully. Her clothes, even in their ruined state, carried patterns of royalty. The way she spoke, her posture, even her sadness, all pointed to someone who was not ordinary. Finally, he asked, "Liara, who were you before all this?" She hesitated. Her hands tightened around the cup of water. Then, with a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "I was Princess of the Vayari people." The words hung in the air. Daniel blinked in surprise. A princess, here, starving and alone? It sounded like something from an old legend. But the honesty in her eyes told him it was true. He did not bow, did not treat her as something untouchable. He simply nodded. "Then, Princess Liara, it seems fate decided we should meet." Her lips trembled. "Do not call me that. A princess without a world is nothing." Daniel leaned forward. "You're not nothing. You're alive. That means you still have a chance, maybe even a purpose." For a long time, she said nothing. But deep inside, something in her heart stirred. She had been running, hiding, surviving without hope. Yet this strange human spoke as if her life still mattered. When she finally lay down to rest, Daniel stood by the doorway. He looked at the stars outside the window, wondering what he had just stepped into. A starving princess, homeless and broken. A human explorer with no grand plan. Two strangers crossing paths in a galaxy full of darkness. It was only the beginning.